So I just wanted to share today the sketchbook that has been part of this month's project, Dust and Bloom. I called it Dust and Bloom because I was um, juxtaposing my dusty environment here in southwest France. You can just see outside if you can. Everything is just dry and dusty and in drought, and then comparing that with Moni's garden, which is lush and just full of fresh bloom and such like. So I also photographed parts of his house, just details in the patterns and the block colour, and started to play around with textures that were dry and textures that were slightly more watery and healthy, fresh colour. So the sketchbook is just a compilation of various studies that I've done. I did some cyanotype photograms on fabric and then stitched into it. And yeah, sometimes it's just simply the photograph of, this was a gate just near Monet's garden. Loving the texture and the greens and blues. The cornflower is the only thing that's been growing really in the garden. A few other things, but I loved the cornflower blue, so I had added that into the collection. And these are all moving parts. So I like to use the sketchbook to play about with textures and compositions, and it brings a bit more order to, what can become quite a chaotic process. This was playing with gel plate and a bit of chalk paint. So just gathering texture and shape and form. I have some vintage old bottles as well, so I was inspired by those shapes and gathering them together with patterns that are inspiring me through what I've been looking at. So nothing is literal, everything is a spontaneous response to what I am inspired by at the moment. Again, this is a gel print, exploring various watery textures with dusted overlay. Playing with organic forms, some more photograms onto fabric, and some play with stitch, using stitch for drawing. In the mornings, I like to do very quick studies just to loosen my mind and to get into the flow. Spending time observing, just picking up a flower from the garden and exploring it for half an hour at a time. And then taking the colours into texture, playing again with just layering fibre against paint on paper, and you can see how things start to transition from what is mostly paperwork into a textile surface. So this might come up, it might come out of the sketchbook at some point, and I'll push it further. And yeah, so nothing is static, everything moves all the time. Here, this was a rose in Moni's garden. Yeah, watercolours, the poppy, again the texture, the sort of the glossy, wet experience of being in his very, very watery, fresh spring garden. Playing about with the shapes of bottles, and yeah, and then starting to consider threads that I would use to go into textiles. More shape, organic forms against bottles, patterns within the curtains. Another print experiment. And again, looking at all the dried sort of paint layered broken surfaces around here in France, and that rustic texture that always appeals to me. I constantly look back to it. And here just dusty, weathered textures. Again, just playing with paper and fibre and bringing them together to create these starting points for future artworks and future textile work. And here you see Monet's water lilies. This is just a little very quick sketch in stitch, just picking up things from his house, tiles and whatnot. Yeah, it's just cornflowers over a vintage French magazine cover, playing with bringing in the cornflower colours, the yellows that were in his fireplace, just mixing, playing, gathering my own personal response to what I'm looking at. So I hope you find that interesting. The wanderings of an artistic mind. But these are great places to go back to, you know, when you're not feeling inspired, and one day it might just be just a little corner of something from one of your pages that you are able to push further and explore. So